Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is DYAH LARASATI, student number 13. I'm 11th grade from MIPA 7. Today I'm going to explain about for example and such as. First, I will talk about the definition about for example and such as. In grammatically, such as is a prepositional phrase, while for example is an adverbial phrase. This means that what follows such as ought to be a noun phrase, while what follows, for example, ought to be an independent clause. For example, in Indonesian language is misalnya, and such as in Indonesian language is seperti. For example, and such as usually used to give example. The function, for example, and such as is to make our idea more clear and understandable, and to make our idea concrete, practical, and comprehensible. Next is, what about the difference in the use of such as and for example? Starting with for example can be used for formal and informal situation, and there is always a comma after the word for example. For example can be used at the beginning of a sentence. Now we move to such as. Such as is used only for informal situation. There are no comma before and after the word such as. Such as cannot be used at the beginning of a sentence. Okay, first, let's start talking about for example. For the use of for example with a sentence, first, for example is used to mention things in one category. In this case, there are two ways of use that must be followed. First, there is a for example followed by a noun. For the example is, there are so many fruit with red color, for example, strawberry, apple, red grape, etc. The second is, for example, followed by a complement and a noun. The example sentence is, not all mammals live on the land. Some of them live in the sea. For example, there are whale, dolphin, and dugong. The second, for example, used to mention a thing representing previous explanation. The example sentence is, there are many things we could do to prevent global warming, for example, by reducing paper usage. Next, for example, used to start a sentence and be followed by a full sentence. The example sentence is, there are many activities in the morning. For example, the student goes to school. Next, the pattern used in, for example, is clause 1, point, for example, comma, clause 2, and clause 1, comma, for example, comma, don't press. Okay. Next is some example sentence using, for example, first, children should eat less junk food. For example, they should avoid eating burger and chips. Second, Brian can play a few musical instruments, for example, the flute, the guitar, the bass, and the drum. And the third is, Hollywood Walk of Fame has been recording phenomenal public figure, for example, Tom Cruise, Christina Aguilera, Muhammad Ali, Simon Cowell, etc. After talk about for example, next let's talk about the second decision, namely such as. First, such as for used to mention thing in this one category. It's the same as in the use of for example. The example is girl like to spend much money for shopping such as clothes, food, cosmetic, etc. Next is to mention a thing representing previous explanation. The example is Kota Pelajar such as Yogyakarta has many universities you can choose to study here. Next, such as cannot start a sentence, so such as used in the middle of sentence followed by noun. The example is, There are many ways the government can do to reduce flood in Jombang, such as implementing better water management. The last is the pattern of such as plus non-press. Some example use such as is first, Brian can play a few musical instruments such as the flute, the guitar, the bass, and the drum. Second, Jaya learns many languages such as English, Japanese, and Spanish. Third, cold countries such as Iceland and Norway have the best aurora borealis show. And the fourth is there are many guys you can choose here, such as Sunjan Mobil Daun Joshua. There are so many of them. Okay, I think it's enough for the explanation of for example and such as. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm very apologize if I get a mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.